seagulls follow the troll, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the buzz and they left the buzz in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
It's the Monday Club yet again on a Tuesday, and Jonathan, I think I'm more hungover today than what I was yesterday. This could be the first show ever at Whitey on camera. You just never know what's going to come, man. Honestly, I'm a shambles. I'm a broken man. But you know what? I'm not the only one who was used and abused last night, Jonathan. So were they. It was a good weekend to be a Celtic fan, was it not?
It certainly was, Russell. It certainly was. The countdown clock tick-tocked its way down, and the conundrum ended up being a very simple one to solve. It only ended up being a little 5-letter word called Kyogo. That was all that was needed to solve the Rangers conundrum. Sometimes the simple answers are always the best. But, you know, when you're looking at the grand scheme of things now, that means Mikey Beale has failed in his attempt to get one over Ange after all of his bluster for weeks and weeks and weeks. They did not win the League Cup. Sticking with the game show analogies, for them when it comes to the League Championship, the chase is over, I feel. And, you know, if they were doing a documentary over at Ibrox, it wouldn't be called the All or Nothing series. It's really now became the Something or Nothing, as they have to put all of their eggs onto the Scottish Cup basket to try and win something. Whereas when you're looking at the Celtic side of things, Russell, Celtic are now in a position where, if you were to use a game show analogy, they're looking at cleaning up all of the prizes. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to find out if they're good enough to go on and do just that.
Well, Jonathan, we said tick-tock in the beginning, but the clock has now struck, mate, and it was, you know, it was D-Day. And we knew it was going to come. The bigger, you know, we knew he was setting himself up for a big fall. I can't even spoke right. We knew he was setting himself up. A bit of banter. I mean, we knew that this, you know, that the opposite number was setting itself up for a fall. And you know what? I don't even think we were at our best at the weekend. I just thought we were just too good for them. We are in a dominant position right now. It's an exciting time to be a Celtic fan. And remember I said Ange is going to Andrew's going to wait till after the event. Well, he's picked today to remind the world that, by the way, I ain't going anywhere. That's the line that he had. I knew he would have one. I didn't know what it would be. I knew he'd pick his battles well. And what he's decided to do was give the worst news ever if you don't support Celtic. And that is, I ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And that really will. That is the ace in the pack. Do you know what I mean? What a line that is to come out with today. He's not backing down. He's doubling down, Jonathan. It just makes the weekend even better. Right, all that good stuff. If you want to become a BOYCE'S Bus subscriber, that makes sense. Hit subscribe if you've not hit it already. There's loads of folk who've done it. Do give the video a like because it gets us more traction. We're already at 99 live in the bus, which is definitely affecting my heebie-jeebies. We're also, if you want to become a member, like so many have, like Stoned Outlaw 1888, like Pog Diet, like Bob McBob, like Stubbsy's Horn, like Monty, like Jim C. There's loads of members now, so a big thank you to you all as well. The content is always free. It's completely optional just to support the channel a wee bit because we all have full-time jobs. We just do this in our spare time, and we love doing it as well. Obviously, Jonathan, as well, we're still pushing the Bumblebee shirt. We're not far away from the target amount of sales now, so we can get that first order in. So a big thank you to those who've purchased it so far on pre-order. We are hoping to get that order in as soon as we can. It's all dependent on when we hit that magical number. Also, piesports.com, mate. Bus 1888. I decided, as you'll see in the front of the shirt there, right? See that Har Barber?
Yes.
I decided to use my Bus 1888 code, Jonathan, and send them a box of pies, Jonathan, just to show my appreciation today. So that should arrive with them this week. I'm sure they'll all get stuck right in. Just
Absolutely.
like we're about to get stuck in. Jonathan, you've not been on yet. We did a brilliant PMP. It's at 5,000 views. That actually meant that we hit over 500,000 views on the channel since we started. Pretty impressive. Delighted. I don't mean impressive in a condescending way. It's like, how? But anyway, it's happened. So yeah, we're absolutely delighted with that. Me and Terry had a great debate with Phil, who joined us as well, because I just felt, Big Phil, he's always there, mate. He's the glue. You know what I mean? So I thought, give him one of the big occasions. Why not? It was only going to be me and Terry, but why not get Phil on as well? He deserved that moment yesterday. But Celtic certainly deserved their moment, Jonathan, lifting the trophy. Like I said, you need to signpost your dominance. We did that. That was the most important thing on Sunday.
Absolutely. I thought Celtic were, I think they had more gears to go through. I would agree with what you were saying earlier there, that I think Celtic, it almost felt as if Celtic were playing against one of the other teams in the league at times. Certainly with the way that we approached it and the way Rangers approached it, where they kind of were trying to let us play our game, which was always going to come back and haunt them eventually. I felt Celtic were in complete control in that first half of football. It was more of a matter of if rather than when that first goal was going to come. It was beginning to look like Rangers, might have got themselves in at half-time at 0-0, but if they had, they wouldn't really have deserved to have been at 0-0 because Celtic were quite comfortably the stronger team in the first half. We get the goal at a perfect time. If you're not going to score early in the half, end the half by getting the goal completely changes those half-time team talks. And I think in the second half, when you get to 2-0, I think, I was watching it in the pub and all the punters were in thinking, we were licking our lips, we were thinking this is going to be one of these days, one of these really memorable days where we go on and win 3-4-5 now.
I did think that. I did think that as well, I've got to say.
Yeah, I did kind of feel like it could have went that way. Obviously, we have the momentary lapse in concentration where Ellis manages to scramble one in, which I was convinced had hit the side netting when I'd watched it live. I had to do a double take. What the hell are they cheering at? But it's actually somehow sneaked in the post. But even after that, Rangers had a bit of the ball, but I never really felt Celtic looked overly concerned. There certainly wasn't a backs to the wall performance. We did Bustalgia on Friday, and it was certainly nothing like what we went through in 2019, not even close. And you were expecting a bit more of an onslaught when they got it back to 2-1, and that Celtic might just need to batten down the hatches for 10, 15 minutes and try and weather a bit of a storm. But that storm never really materialised. And the game ended up playing out. And if anything, it was probably again going to be us who came into a second wind once we made some of the substitutions. Haksabanovic was a key one. Had plenty of opportunities to get himself on the score sheet. And, it was a great performance. But 2-1 in the end, I felt almost flattered them with how that game had went. But, got the job done, won the cup. shut Nicky Beale up. That's really what it was all about at the end of the day, and we did all of that.
What we did as well, which I love, is see the goals. They're Celtic's, like, literally their textbook type of goals. So it just goes to show you, when we're playing even against our rivals, we're not having to change our game. It's how you deal with Celtic. That's what I loved about those goals. They're the exact same as the goals against Dundee United in that 9-0 win. The exact same formula. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, it might be there, it might be in front of you. You might know what's coming, but can you deal with it? And our nearest rivals in the country couldn't deal with Celtic doing what Celtic do. It wasn't Celtic who adapted to the opposition. It was we did exactly what we do against any of the teams. And I just thought that was a really cool thing, that the two goals were very much what we've been practicing all season. Other than that, I mean, yes, okay, we conceded the goal. We had a rough 10 minutes. But do you know what? The one thing as well, I was maybe a wee bit critical at the weekend. I was like, see, we get rocked a wee bit easy. But with hindsight, if you told me before the game, stop talking. Right. But like, if you'd said to me before the game, will Rangers have a 10-minute spell, 15-minute spell? I'd have said, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course I think that'll happen. So you shouldn't then be surprised when it happens. So
it's always going to happen, stuff like that, though, isn't it? It's like a case you can look at that, and you're always going to have spells where the other team plays better, whether it's Rangers or whether it's one of the other teams in the league. Hibs had spells in the League Cup final last year against us as well. It's nonsensical to think you're going to go through 90 minutes of football, particularly in a cup game where the opposition has nothing to lose either. And expect to have it all your own way.
Yeah.
I felt for the most part, though, Celtic were absolutely in control of that game. I felt, as I said, even when Rangers did manage to get it back to 2-1, Joe Hart never had to make a save after that whatsoever. The pressure that I was expecting an onslaught. I thought, right, we're going to have to now try and weather a bit of a storm, but the storm never materialised. I think Celtic, were very resolute in defence. I thought, as was touched upon on PMP, I thought Carl Starfelt had perhaps his best game in a Celtic jersey. I thought he was excellent along with Carter Vickers. And I think, Rangers didn't have answers to how we were able to just cope with them defensively during that period where, Rangers were getting a bit more of the ball. But as I say, they never really were arranging to pick holes in the defence. And I think it showed that Celtic, were willing to change things up a bit as the game was progressing. They did realise, okay, we might have to try and to deal with a bit of an onslaught here, and we're just going to be like, well, let's see if you can break us down. And they couldn't. And when we kind of weathered that sort of 10 minutes and we realised they've got nothing to offer, we once again come back into the game, and we probably should have scored at least one more in the last 10 or 15 minutes, because it was us who were getting all the chances on the break, as Rangers just didn't seem to have any answers to us sitting in and letting them ask us the questions. And I think it was quite refreshing, Russell, because it's a bit of a different way to have gone about it. Celtic are usually known for being a bit gung-ho under Ange and being always on the front foot and in the ascendancy. But I think the fact that they were able to answer those questions when they were under the pressure and then, be able to sit in and, absorb that shows that Celtic have perhaps learned a few lessons. And I'll be interested to see if they can carry that on into European football next season, because I think that was something that was missing, was perhaps sometimes getting the balance right between attack and defence. And yeah, Starfelt was obviously a massive loss in the Champions League games this season. Perhaps we're going to find out just how crucial he is over the next 12 months, because it made such a big difference having him in. The record with him and Carter Vickers together at the back is an absolute joke. So for me, if we're able to keep the two of them at centre half, it just goes to show that Celtic do have lots of different ways to win games of football. It's many different ways to skin a cat, as you always say. And I thought the defensive performance was just as good as the attacking play that we showed throughout the game.
Definitely, that's the two sides of it. Like I say, I mean, you're talking about a different way maybe you're seeing there of winning, and then when you actually think about it as well, like you look at the goals Celtic scoring and go, that's exactly what we're associated with. So that's the two sides of it. I do think defensively, Starfelt's had so much sort of focus when he's not done things well in a Celtic shirt. And by the way, sometimes rightfully so. These guys get paid handsomely, Jonathan, to be exposed. Do you know what I mean? If they do something wrong, like, folk need to just take it on the chin. Do you know what I mean? It's it's the nature of the game. But I think we need to give praise when it's due as well. And I was glad that we had a wee segment on on Sunday there with Terry when we were actually going, do you know what? He deserves all the praise that's going to come his way now in the next sort of week or so, because he was excellent. He was a big, Cameron Carter-Vickers will almost start going under the radar now because we just are used to it from him. But Big Starfelt, I thought, wow, that's what he's all about. And I enjoyed his performance. But there's so many. I mean, to try and go through them all individually, you could find a case in point for so many of them, Jonathan, and what they bring to that team. And it's when you look at the subs bench and you just see the guys coming on and you go, that depth it's just astonishing. I mean, I loved Hacksaw's game. I think I said that the weekend as well. I mean, I really liked what I've seen from him. There's going to be guys now, I think anyway, we don't want to take the league for granted, but I don't think it is taking it for granted by playing some of these guys who don't start all the time, because their level is actually so high as well. They're not what we would associate with typical guys who only get 20-minute cameos. These are guys of a level, very high level, Jonathan, who are trying to get into what is probably a pretty settled team. I would have said the biggest eye-opener for me with Celtic's Cup final team was you could have predicted it. O'Reilly, Moy, the only debate, and that's funny when the squad's so big. But notwithstanding that doesn't mean the options on the back are miles off it. It doesn't at all. No. In fact, some of them are maybe not getting game time or starts in these sort of games because they've not had enough game time leading up to it, but not because of form or anything like that. I am looking forward to now seeing the likes of Ivatas, Haksabanovic, I think, get more and more game time as the league comes to a conclusion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's probably the strongest squad we've had in a long time. I don't even think under Rodgers the squad was as strong as this one, winning trebles galore. I think, you just look at that bench, and I even just go back to that 2019 League Cup final last time we played them there, and you were bringing on options. You were starting guys like Lewis Morgan, you had guys like Mikey Johnson coming off your bench. Whereas nowadays you're looking at the Celtic team and it's just quality for quality. You talk about the options they had in the starting 11. I think, you're probably right. It's probably went the way that most people expected them to go, even though there was obviously talk of a curveball. But even the curveball, if it had been played, was still going to be a quality player that came in. And it would have just been a bit more of a surprise to see one of the regulars dropping out, more than it being like a full-on sort of curveball. You're like, Christ, how's he getting a game? He's not shown enough in the last few weeks. And I think, with Celtic, that depth has been something that Postecoglou has been working on. And I think it's paying dividends because, as I say, there was that spell in the second half, Hunts Rangers get their goal where you're thinking this could end up becoming a bit more of a slog. And the substitutions then, help settle us and go again. And that's really one of the biggest differences between the two clubs at the moment, if you ask me, is that when you look across the city, there isn't enough depth there at all. And it's one of the key areas why we blow them out the water so much, is because of the fact that when it comes to, losing a player, we have just as good a player to come in almost every position, I would say, apart from perhaps up front, every other position is pretty well catered for. But then, if Kyogo's not getting injured and scoring 2 goals, you can just deal with that as they come along. So, I think Ange Postecoglou must have been very pleased with how his squad's developed. And I think there must be a bit of frustration, though, at the same time, because I think he's built the squad anticipating still being in Europe for the second half of the season. And now you're talking, obviously, with it being domestic football, league is pretty much done, so he can rotate it a bit more. But at the same time, because he's not going to have as many midweek games, I'm not so sure he will rotate it that much until the league's actually won. I think he might just stick with his tried and trusted 11 because they're only going to be playing, every Saturday.
I get what you're saying. I know exactly what you mean. That makes sense. I mean, the bad thing is, to sort of contrast it is, how could we be entering into March and have genuine excitement for players we've not really got as much of a feel for yet? And that would be your Ivatas, Kobayashi's. Why do people do that? Why do you say it with an apostrophe and an S at the end when there's only one of them? I don't know why that happens. But O's obviously another one as well. And there's a level of excitement about seeing these guys. It's not like, we don't want to take the piss here and take it for granted. I'm excited to see more guys that Ange has decided to spend money on and bring into the club. I think he's got a pretty good track record at this game, Jonathan, right now. So, loads of excitement. We'll talk about Ange a wee bit more because obviously he's decided to go for the good news vibe That's what he's done, and that is his hammer blow. Is that interview? It was a very classy interview that he did as well. By the way, it was top draw. I don't know if you watched it on YouTube today. Celtic posted. It was very good.
That's right, yep.
But it's a hammer blow, you know, for Scottish football out with Celtic. Do you know what I mean? That he's saying, I'm going to be alone. I don't know how much I enjoy this, yada, yada. I think he's definitely got his eyes set on the Champions League. It's a brilliant. I was listening to Tony Haggett earlier, and he was so right. He said, you know, one of the biggest challenges in European football right now is turning Celtic back into a European force. You know, he'll love that aspect of it. Do you know what I mean? And he's not going to be satisfied yet with what he's done in Europe. Do you know what I mean? Domestically, yes, he's got a handle on it. We expect that at Celtic by season 2. He did it a season earlier than that as well, which maybe came as a bit of a surprise ahead of schedule. But in Europe, I think he wants to definitely, you know, prove himself. Do you know what I mean? And that'll be his eyes. But not just that. I think what you're seeing is a guy who's now like, he's getting his teeth into it a wee bit and he's going, do you know what? I like the rivalry in a way. Like, I don't mind it because I think he's got a lot of self-confidence, which so he should. Jeez, I'm knocking things over. Right, Paul Dyatt, a big shout out to his dog Jack. That's so sad, mate. I don't need this when I'm hungover, but Paul, I do feel your pain, mate, because horrible feeling, pal.
Nothing worse.
Yeah, I hope you're all right, mate. But yeah, Jonathan, do you know what I mean? I just think right now, you look how Ange's dealt with winning, and yes, he's put the focus on him again, but in a positive way. They lost yesterday on Sunday. Yesterday, hi, right, we're doing a Monday club on a Monday. They lost, though. They lost, and their manager decided to put the focus on him as well, with a ridiculous team talk on the park. I think you're seeing the levels of experience difference here. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh no, definitely. I think Bustalgia has got very clever very quickly to the Scottish media. I think he's had them under his spell for after probably about 2 or 3 weeks in the job. He quickly sussed them out and realised what he was dealing with. And I like how the fact he's actually dealt the preemptive strike in this one by saying, he actually even says exactly the kind of thing that they would write in an article, saying, you're going to turn round to me and say that I lack ambition if I go on to win a treble, pretty much, and that, you know, I should be going down to England and that I'm fed up here. And he says, well, let me just correct that for you right now and put this on the record. So he's already preempting stories that they haven't even got round to writing yet. That's how far ahead of the game he is. So that then when they do come out with these stories, he can just refer them straight back to the fact he's batted that question away before it was even asked. So
Ange doesn't want to do the media duties, right? He doesn't want to do them. But funnily enough, he's unbelievably brilliant at it, right? He's got the media by the bollocks. Whereas the other guy loves media duties. That's all he wants to do is be in front of a camera. He's absolutely terrible at it. That, I think, when you see a manager doing that in the Hampden pitch, I think that's going to end up backfiring as well, in the way that we're right now cannot be more bought into a manager. And then he goes and gives you that wee good news story today. I'm here for the long haul, and the loving increases if we even thought that was possible. The other guy now has put loads of focus on him, and I think the Bears are beginning to get a wee bit angry, and I think that sort of thing on the pitch was misguided, to say the least. And I think you're now beginning to see a gulf between our very experienced and excellent manager and this rookie here who is way out his depth, in my opinion, now.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Beale is trying to achieve by doing that. I mean, I can only think of one time Celtic have really got involved in something like that was under Brendan, when we lost the unbeaten run to Hearts, and there was kind of a reason for that. It was just to show a bit of unity because Brendan hadn't lost.
He had 67 or what was it?
I mean, it was 69 games.
He's got credit in the bank.
Yeah, that's just what I was about to say. There was actually a reason behind it, was because Celtic had gone unbeaten for so long, that there was a reason for having that moment of collectiveness together and just appreciating what they had done up until that game at Tynecastle. All Mickey Beale's done is what was it, 12, 13 games unbeaten in the league, winning them all. So, it's definitely something that that I just don't really get why you would think, oh, we've had a really good start, but let's have a team talk on the pitch to try and make a point on that. And Darryl makes a very good point coming in there about Ronnie Dyler and doing a team talk on the park. If he'd done one, he'd have got absolutely slaughtered for it. And Darryl's absolutely spot on. Ronnie Dyler would have got absolutely slaughtered for doing something like that. I think the Rangers fans won't put up with a lot of that from Mickey Beale. I think he's if he thought he was pandering to the fan base by doing something like that, I think he'll find out that that is just going to be a massive mistake, and they won't put up with that. He wouldn't try something like that. Say for example they were to lose at Ibrox to somebody and they tried something like that, the boos would be coming chorusing down on him at somewhere like Ibrox. At Hampden, he'll get away with it because it's pretty much empty at the Rangers' end, and the Celtic fans are too busy caring about us getting the cup to really pay any attention to what he's doing. So he's not going to really get the full reaction. But if he tried something like that at Ibrox after a negative result, he'd be absolutely caned for it. But on the flip side with Postecoglou, I think the reason he's also wanting to hang around so much isn't just because of the fact he sees the project of taking Celtic on in Europe as an attractive proposition. I think he's also looking at it and wondering just how far the players he's worked with and seen over in Asia, how far they can go in European football as well. Because you've got to remember the Asian market isn't really one that Celtic have been notoriously involved with. Fair enough, we did get Nakamura and we signed one or two other Asians over the period, but it's certainly not a market we've tapped into too much. And I think, we'll do we. Yeah, but he wasn't very good, was he? He wasn't very good. He wasn't quite a Nakamura-esque signing, was he? Maybe had a similar impact, but in the opposite way. But I think Postecoglou will look at that and think, I've worked with these players. I think they can do a job in Europe. And I think, when you bring these players in, he can actually sell the vision to them of being like, well, a lot of people over in Europe have turned your nose up at this market because they don't look to bring in players from this side of the world because they don't think you're good enough. And to do it in Europe, it can actually use that as a bit of fire, I think, with the players as well that are coming in. And I think that obviously adds more unity to the team as well. So I think from what Postecoglou's done, there's a clear vision in place, I guess is what I'm trying to say, as to what he's wanting to build and what he sees at Celtic over the next couple of years. With Mickey Beale, I'm not sure what the hell he's trying to achieve. I think he's just going from one calamity to another. Fair enough, he's not had a negative result until Sunday. But watch, if they start coming now and they unravel, which could very well happen, by the way, then I could see him getting more and more erratic as the weeks go on.
Well, I think there's what if I was to try and work out what he's all about. I mean, it's very difficult. Do you know what I mean? Because he talks that much, let alone that much shite. He just talks that much. But I wonder if the actual mindset he's got is this is to deflect from 12 players out of contract, a cup final defeat, and it's because it's quite a tried and tested thing. Managers put all the heat on them, but he's going so far. He just looks like an absolute, like a rookie manager. And I love what Daryl said, because Daryl comes in the comments and makes the best comparison. Ronnie Deila was treated like he didn't understand football when he came here. Like he was a rookie manager. He had a Norwegian title, Jonathan. He'd won the title in Norway with the equivalent of like Ross County. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
This was nae mug. Okay, the job was too big for him. I get all that. But no way would he have got away with this sort of nonsense. Absolutely not. And I think that was a brilliant comparison, Daryl. So I do appreciate that comparison. I think that was worthwhile. But the good news just carries on, because right now I can't deny it. I said if we win the League Cup final, which I thought we would, I think the gap at the top becomes bigger. I think we'll secure the title earlier now because of that. I think that's just one of those things. Once momentum shifts, not that it's ever left us, by the way, but that's, their momentum shifted, I would say. I think you'll see them drop more points. I'm not saying every week, but I think they'll drop more. I think that gap will get bigger, which means we'll secure Champions League football again, Jonathan. That's on the that's on the horizon. Us guaranteeing ourselves another windfall. Us taking the bank balance to a level that's absolutely mad. And there's still a Scottish Cup to compete for. Let's get the domestic house in order. And then if we've got a refocused Ange who's literally telling you, I'm here for a longer duration of time than maybe you guys think, and he's been very smart, as you say, preempting what the questions will be come the summer. If he's refocused and he's sort of like, I'm in situ, I'm in the place I want to be, boy, oh boy, I think you've got to back this guy now, Jonathan, and there's no excuse not to.
No, I think he'll definitely be looking for the backing of the board, and that'll be critical that he actually gets it, because we can see how quickly things can change. When managers can seem to be happy, the obvious one being Brendan looking like he was going to hang around for 10 in a row, and then all kind of unravelled in the summer before he left with the business not getting done that he wanted, and then that started the process of Brendan Rodgers leaving the club. I'm not saying that would be quite as possibly as extreme with Ange Postecoglou this summer. However, you certainly want to keep him on side and you want to make sure that, you know, if he's identified a player, that you're going hell for leather to get them. And if that means, you know, breaking the budget a bit more, Postecoglou will have proven by the summer that he deserves that backing. You know, if it's an £8-9 million player he identifies that he wants, then Celtic should be doing everything they possibly can to make sure that deal happens. And I think they will. I think, you know, Postecoglou is looking at it in the short term up until the summer. You know, as a huge opportunity if he can go on to secure the Scottish Cup, because I'm with you. I think the league is only going to go one way, and it's only going to probably get greater of a points difference. But if you're looking at the Scottish Cup, and if Postecoglou can win a treble, you know, against a Rangers team that only 12 months ago were in a European final, then I think that carries an awful lot of weight that Postecoglou can then go to the board and say, you know, this treble's been won, fair enough. We might have won a lot of them in recent
Morelos
years.
levels of weight?
Well, yes, possibly. He is fairly chunky, though. I don't know if it's quite as weighted as him, but it's certainly not far off, I would say. But, you know, he can then go to the board and he can make the claim, though, that this treble was the toughest out of all the ones we've won in the last 4 or 5 years, because the level of opposition were at a European final. They were the league champions during that COVID season. You know, I've not only managed to overturn that gap, I've also then went and delivered a clean sweep as well. And, you know, I think that gives them so much ammunition to go to the board and say, you know, if I've identified somebody, look what I've done for you over the last couple of years, you're going to need to roll with it on this one, and, you know, let me try and get the players in that I want for another crack at European football, because the way you keep Ange Postecoglou at the club is by keeping him stimulated. And, you know, as we've both said, the way to keep him stimulated is to make him feel like he's making progress and inroads into European football with Celtic, because winning trebles are great, but I think for Postecoglou, I think he looks at the European scene as something that's equally, if not more, important to him.
Well, Jonathan, it's interesting because you were saying about with the media, we were saying he plays the media brilliantly, Ange, and he preempts the questions that are going to come his way. Could he be in a position he's done that with the board as well? And he's let them off, and he's like, I'll prove you wrong, watch this. I bet you didn't want me to even go to that market so many times because you had your doubts. But I've came up trumps every single time near enough. You know what I mean? With very low value players. But you need to post your accounts, guys. I know how much is there. I know the narrative in the country was we had no chance. I've turned all that around. It's now the second year in the Champions League in a row. The trophies are sitting behind me. Look at the fans buy-in right now. All the season tickets are guaranteed to go again in the summer. Done.
Yep.
Sold out. He's a huge factor in that. Has he just maybe managed to get all these sort of ammunition? It's just all ready now to rock for the summer. And he's actually could be about to, as you say, have such a strong, compelling argument with the board that he's actually maybe played a blinder here as well.
Yeah, I think he's got all of his ducks in a row. I think that's exactly what he's done with the board, and I'm sure he won't be waiting to the summer. He'll be having those conversations now. If there's one thing we know about Postecoglou, is he's always planning ahead. You know, whether we win the treble or whether we don't, he's going to be able to go there with enough kudos in the bank. You know, after winning, you know, a double last season where nobody gave him a chance. You know, he's already got the League Cup this season. He's in an excellent position to go on and clinch the league title. You know, Scottish Cup is still question marks over it. Of course, we've got a very difficult game at Tynecastle to navigate as well on that front. But I would be very surprised if Postecoglou isn't already making his points known behind the scenes with the board. And not necessarily, you know, in a bad way. He'll do it in a clever way, like similar to what he does with the media, I would say, and just dropping them in casually into conversations. But making sure that thought process is there at the back of their minds that, you know, come the summer, this is what we're wanting to do, and, you know, you're going to need to buy into this if we're wanting to actually be serious about our football club competing at the top end of European football, because Postecoglou has bought into that vision, you know, and he needs the board to make sure that they've bought into that. And I think that's the one where the fans quite often can be split as to whether or not they feel the board fully buys in to Celtic giving it a go in Europe these days, or whether they're just content dominating domestic football forevermore. But I think we'll get a lot of answers in the summer, one way or another. But I think Postecoglou will have been shrewd enough, and, you know, to quote words that you like to use, acutely aware of the fact he has, you know, delivered over the last couple of years, and he's probably got enough coin in the bank to already make that argument, regardless of whether or not he secures the Scottish Cup this season. You know, if he's bringing in Champions League money 2 seasons in a row, that sort of money all adds up, Russell, and it's something that Celtic will need to back him if that's what he's found, that he's wanting players. They
You
need to
should
back
be
him.
excited by this, though. This is an exciting thing. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be something everyone goes, oh, what do you mean spend the money? We've got everything's in place now to go on the attack. Be aggressive. Let's see what this club can become again. I think it's all been building up and brewing nicely. San Fran Celtic, oh mate, you have not missed. That is a peach of a comment, and I'll just take that one right on the chin. Is Boyce still drunk? No. Hasn't mentioned I will miss Giakoumakis yet. Boom. Ouch. Well done, San Fran. That was good pattern, mate. I'll take that on the chin. You're right. You're absolutely
You
right.
never know. Maybe we'll re-sign him in summer.
You never know. You never know.
You never know. Maybe that's Ange's master plan.
I don't think so. I think once you've burnt your bridges with the big man, he's out. Maybe he'll get a wee thumbs up on Instagram. One of those patronising ones. You know what I mean, off Ange. The team, though, Jonathan, right now is in a strong place. This isn't us going, oh, we need to revamp it or anything. I just think we're going to constantly see it evolve under Ange. He's told us that. He's signposted it. He's roadmapped it. That's what's going to happen. It is, though, in a point in time where, Celtic's dominance since the turn of the century, if you like, the millennium and all that shite, is frightening. What the stat that everyone's loving to spout right now is the 22 trophies in 11 years. That is insane, though. That's 2 a season. There only is 3. Yeah. Obviously, I like to think of Europe as, maybe a potential 4th, but maybe a wee bit unrealistic even on my part. But 22 trophies in 11 years is real dominance for the club right now. And, I would like it to then be taken on to the next. But I'm also in a position right now where we've got to enjoy it right now when it's there in front of us. You've got to enjoy what you're watching right now. The team, someone said in the comments earlier, remember the style of football? I think it was Padraig Post. Spot on. It's a joy to watch Celtic right now. And sometimes it's so easy to be always focusing on, where would you take Celtic next? What would you do next? Are you enjoying the moment day to day? And, definitely I'm guilty of that at times. You know what I mean? Of course, just because I care that much. Do you know what I mean? But realistically, Jonathan, we've got to enjoy it right now, what we're watching. We've got to enjoy the feast of football that Ange is putting on the table for us. And, it certainly isn't famine or feast for Mr. Morelos.
No, I think when you're looking at the performances that Celtic have been putting in since Postecoglou's really came in the door and kind of put a stamp on the team, they've been absolutely excellent. The unbeaten runs that Postecoglou's put together shows just how good they are at getting the results. But the style has been very reminiscent for me of how Brendan Rodgers was conducting business in his first season as Celtic manager. I think the football that Postecoglou has got Celtic playing has been absolutely brilliant. They're a pleasure to watch every week, and it says a lot because you're looking at games, even trying to get to a game at Celtic Park are usually sold out within 24 hours of the tickets going on general sale, because punters want to go and watch this Ange Postecoglou team, and it's going to be the same. Even though we're both calling the league, and there'll be a lot of Celtic fans that'll be very similar as well, and you could almost be forgiven for thinking, well, these games aren't as important because the gap is so large. But everyone and their granny is going to want tickets to the upcoming Celtic home games over the next couple of months, because the football that we've been putting on has been an absolute joy and a privilege to watch. And you're right, we do tend to get caught up in the moment as football fans. We all want to see where Celtic can go next, and we've all got that question mark over how far the team can go in Europe. But make absolutely no mistake about it. Don't take these times for granted when things are going so well for us domestically, because it may not always be the case that Celtic are absolutely dominant. At the moment, it doesn't feel like there's an end in sight just with the financial firepower we have. But you never know how football can change over time. So you've got to enjoy these moments, and it's something that a lot of Celtic fans can look back on with a lot of pride when they think back to this Ange Postecoglou team in 5-10 years' time, when Phil's doing his Bustalgia on a Friday night and we're looking at an Ange Postecoglou season. We'll be like, oh yes, that'll be like, for a lot of people, that'll be like similar to what you are when we do like a Martin O'Neill one. So that's, as big a compliment as I can pay Ange Postecoglou.
You're brilliant there, Jonathan. I couldn't agree more. And I think I've said this on the show before. I was like, my God, you can't say anything about Celtic without going, Ange wouldn't do that, Ange wouldn't like that. And it's like, oh my, like, do you know what I mean? But then I do flip it and I go, do you know what? I'm the exact same. And I used to be, once upon a time, younger. And I was the exact same O'Neill. See, when I think about it that way, I go, do you know what? Fair enough. Mark Daly comes in, he says, okay, you know, if he's looking at the money being spent that we were talking about there, he says, well, where do you think that money would be best spent? Strengthening what areas? I said at the weekend, and please don't think this is a pops for the sake of it, but I genuinely believe that the goalkeeper bit, that's an upgrade area in my opinion. You still get the fear when the ball's going to his feet, unfortunately, and it's not because it's you know, an attack on Joe Hart in any way, shape or form. I don't think this has ever been his game. I think he's done his absolute damnedest to try and adapt and try and learn. But at the end of the day, if you're constantly evolving, people will fall by the wayside. I don't mean fall by the wayside flippantly. I still think he could be a bit of a, you know, a pillar at the club still. I think he would be ideal to keep about the place. But yeah, I feel from when I watch Celtic play, my heart's still a wee bit in my mouth when the ball goes back to Joe Hart's feet a wee bit. I've not got that confidence. In fact, I felt for the most experienced player in the team in terms of age, in fact, 75 caps for England, I thought he looked the most nervy at times yesterday, Jonathan, in spells.
Yeah, no, I think there was a few times the ball came into the box where it looked like there were ones he could catch, which I think Terry touched up on as well on PMP, where he's flapping or he's punching them. And certainly with the ball at his feet, it's never been his game. You know, it takes me back to the game at Ibrox where we were, you know, in reasonable control, and then he ends up having a bit of a moment with the ball at his feet, which, you know, gives them a shot in the arm and starts the changing of the progress of how that game is going. Joe Hart, though, he's been a very good signing for Celtic. He's been an important part of you know, the Postecoglou's team over the past couple of seasons. His influence does go far, you know, and he has produced some good saves at times as well. You certainly is somebody that, you know, if he was wanting to stay on in the coaching staff, I wouldn't be against that whatsoever. But I think particularly when you're looking at the club making inroads in Europe, Celtic are always going to have to build their team on a top goalkeeper. It's no coincidence that when we've got to the last 16 of the Champions League in the past, the goalkeepers were Artur Boruc and Fraser Foster have been two of the best goalkeepers of my lifetime. You know, watching Celtic, like by miles, they've been the two best. You know, and Celtic need to have somebody that they can turn to in big moments, particularly in those European games where they're going to be under the cosh a bit at times, that can produce big saves because you know, you're going up against some of the best players in the world. And for me, you know, Joe Hart's time is certainly past in terms of, you know, his peak years. And he's probably now kind of getting towards the point where he'll need to be calling it a day, I think. So I'd be surprised if Postecoglou isn't looking at that position again in the summer, because it doesn't look like he's been convinced by Siegrist. Siegrist looks like he's mainly been brought in as a backup goalkeeper, which is fair enough. Because a lot of people would have expected that to have been the case anyway. So if he's not convinced that Siegrist is going to be the long-term answer, then he's going to need to go out and bring in another goalkeeper, absolutely. I think, you know, outside of that, I wouldn't say there's too many other positions that immediately spring to mind that need strengthened. I mean, as was touched upon, the strength and depth is extremely good throughout the team, but I would certainly be, you know, I'd still be quite keen on another striker. I know we have this conversation quite regularly, but I do still think you want really three good strikers, particularly if you're going to be playing on all fronts. So I'd probably say a goalkeeper and a striker, and then provided you don't lose any of your key players in the summer, which is no guarantee either.
I think you know, it's likely that at least one will go, and it's not because we want them to. I just think that's the reality of the situation. They're good players. They do very well. They're going to be attracting interest.
Oh, absolutely. You're just hoping that if it is one of those players that does end up going, that's been a key player for us this season, that Postecoglou has already identified somebody to come in to replace them. But you know, as we all know, it could just be a complete curveball, and we could get caught out in the summer window where some bid comes in that we weren't expecting for one of our players. But if you're, you know, as I say, if I was looking at it at the moment, of the squad as it is, it's got extremely good strength and depth, you know, and for me, it would really be the goalkeeper, similar to yourself, and another striker, I think, is all we need at present. There's nothing else that screams problems to me. You could possibly argue you're going to need cover in certain areas, possibly left back. I'm not convinced Bernabei's going to be the long-term answer, Russell. But at the same time, is somebody going to get in ahead of Greg Taylor with the way he's playing? It'd be very difficult. It would be very difficult, but it's probably something, if you're talking about competition for places, I think the argument with Greg Taylor and Burnaby is probably quite a big gulf at the moment in terms of quality from what I've seen of Burnaby. Is that somewhere you could possibly look at another left back? I know we seem to buy left backs almost every summer at the moment.
And you'll go again in the summer, right? That's the thing. He'll be like that. Trust me, I've identified areas that maybe we don't see. But I think you need to remember, again, I was saying this the other day, we're emotionally invested in this. Players become, like people you identify with. You don't think you can improve on them because you like them as well. Do you know what I mean? You've bought into them as not just entities on a football pitch, but the person. Do you know what I mean? So it's, could we really upgrade there? Come on. I think he'll be ready for the summer, mate. And I think there'll be some surprises. I just think that's what he's. I think that's just what he's like. He doesn't stop and all that carry on. Would it be left back? Who knows? Who knows? To be honest with you, I mean, the Burnaby thing right now just seems to be no one has a clue what ability he's got as of yet. Yes, he's had sporadic appearances, but probably unfair to judge given the sort of the sporadic nature that he's actually made them. But of course, he comes with that price tag where you think, well, there's a fair investment made there. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a bit of belief in him. And after 1 year to write it off, I don't know. Polymorphous makes a good point here, and I like this. He says Burnaby's shown more than Taylor did in his first year, but the bar is also a lot higher now. That's a great point, mate. That is a brilliant point. I totally agree with that, Polymorphous. I hadn't thought of it that way. There's a wee bit of debate going in there in the live chat, Jonathan, about greatest Celtic team of your lifetime. I think the yardstick's got to be Europe on that, and the jury's out. It's not because we've made our mind up that Celtic won't be able to compete in Europe under Andrew. I think that nags at him a wee bit as well. I think he's wanting now to go third year. It's prime time now for his stage in his Celtic career to have his team ready for Europe. And I am very, very intrigued by next season. If we were to make some sort of a tangible, Dave King, dent in Europe, then we could start talking about, where it compares with other sides. But I think domestic success at this moment in time, whilst never taken for granted, doesn't quite elevate you to teams that have maybe achieved a wee bit more in Europe. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think you need to be doing something in Europe if you want to be considered one of the best teams that you've witnessed playing for Celtic. I think when you're looking at Celtic down the years, they've always, the top teams, they always tend to get, at least one or two big results in Europe. It's very easy to go back to O'Neill's era and obviously the UEFA Cup run and everything like that. Interestingly, I wouldn't say that most people would think Gordon Strachan's team was probably better than Postecoglou's. If the two of them were to go up against each other, most people would probably fancy Postecoglou's team to win that. They certainly perhaps played the better football out of the two of them. But, at the end of the day, Strachan's team found ways to get results as well. And I think that's just the balance I think Celtic have to try and find, because it has been done by what I would consider perhaps poorer teams. You could even argue the Lennon's team, when they got to the last 16 of the Champions League, was a poorer team than Postecoglou's team is now in terms of football and ability. But they've found a way to crack European football, which is why they're remembered as well. So I think for me, it is the one thing that is missing for Postecoglou. That's not to say it couldn't happen. I think he is building it towards that. And, you've got to remember where he came from with the team, and he had to do the full revamp in his first season. Fair enough, this season he's had his first go at the Champions League, and by all accounts we probably were hoping for a bit more from that than we ultimately got. But I think season 3, we'll get a much better indication as to where this Postecoglou team lies in our history books, and if it was able to produce a couple of scalps in Europe, and Postecoglou's end up able to, he doesn't always want to compromise too much on his principles. He's got a way of wanting to play with the team, but he needs to also try and find a way that's going to get us results as well. As we said during that Champions League campaign, we're wanting points, not plaudits, is the saying we've used before on this. And that is probably the big riddle that Postecoglou has to try and solve in the summer if Celtic went back into the Champions League, that they are able to get results at that level. And if that means that we have to change things slightly in order to do that, then that's what will need to be done. And I think if he is able to then get some big results in Europe, particularly if he was able to win, a tie after Christmas, because it's been so long since that's happened, then I think that goes a long way with Postecoglou as well, cementing his legacy.
Jonathan, you've absolutely carried me tonight. I can't thank you enough, mate. This has been an excellent, excellent podcast from you. I've just enjoyed being carried along for the ride, mate, so I appreciate it. And now my gift to you is Phil McGinley comes on for
now I
Sutton
get
Death.
carried along for the ride when McGinley turns up.
I've got
boys.
no chance tonight. There is no way I can win tonight.
After my shocker last week, I wouldn't be writing anything off at the moment. I've
been watching obviously tonight, and Russell, that was going through my head here. You're toiling a wee bit tonight, so I apologise.
Focusing on breathing. I'm focusing on breathing. Do you know what I mean?
Oh boy, this will be a whopper. So I apologise in advance. I'm going to have to put you through the ringer here with this one, but that is the nature of the beast. When Sutton Death comes around, this is what we do. So. Yeah, it's that time again, boys. It's a Tuesday. Usually it's on a Monday, but it's a Tuesday, and regardless.
Well, probably half the time it's been on a Tuesday before, Phil. Let's not get ourselves on.
Fair. Aye, let's be honest. Yeah, we'll say the last 15 minutes of the show. Basically, this is what we do. Sutton Death. So the current score on the board is 11-8 to Russell. It got back to 2 points. He's put it back to 3 points, but will Jonathan bring it back to 2 tonight? Will Russell extend the lead? Time is running out, though, because the finish line is now in sight. We're at the business end of the season.
That countdown clock is beginning to tick down on my chances.
11-8 to you, Russell. 3 points in it.
That makes me feel a bit better. I've got the cushion. Because it's 11-9. Trust me.
He's at the mind games already. I know what he's all about.
No, please, not this time. Not today. No mind games, mate. Trust me. Just honest truths. Do you know what I mean?
We don't have to play if you want to forfeit, Russell. That's fine.
While you're debating that, I shall get all of the aesthetics set up in the old background and whatnot.
I'm just getting waves of fear now. I don't even know why. I'm scared of a fucking quiz. My life's a mess, man.
It'll all be fine. It'll be over soon enough. Don't worry. So you've got a wee bit of cushion there anyway, so. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I'll be giving you flashbacks to last night in a minute. How loud this music will come on. You'll feel like you're back in a nightclub, Russell. So don't worry about it. Let's make sure the music's working okay again, because I've got the fear every time I press the play button now. DJ McGinley.
So I can hear you guys. You can hear me.
On my end, aye.
Okay, yep. And chat, can you hear the three of us? Let's have a wee look, see if anybody confirms that one, just because we need to be sure.
Got the comments off?
Yeah, I'll check the comments. I'll keep a wee quick eye on it. Looks like nobody's coming in and saying it's bad, so I guess we are good to go, guys. Yeah, round number 19 this is of Sutton Death. 19, geez, wow. Sorry. It would be... No,
round 20.
Round 20.
So, I should have done a special for the nice round number. I should have, but I've missed that opportunity. I'll save that for another time. But yeah, guys, let's do this. So, Russell, usual question I asked. You won last week. Do you want to go first or second?
Don't ask me difficult questions, Phil. I'll go first.
Okay. I can't promise if difficult or not.
Good.
Oh, right. Okay. So, last few weeks I've been really generous with some of the questions in terms of the number of answers. Tonight it's not one of those. There's only 14 available answers, so the margin for error is going to get very small.
Oh, we could end up doing a 7-7, Russell. We could end up doing a 7-7 if we get them all.
That's not going to happen, son.
No, it's not going to happen. Who am I kidding?
So the date range tonight is obviously from start of the century to present day, 2000 to present day. There's 14 right answers, and the question is this: name any Celtic player that scored a goal for Scotland while they were a Celtic player. There's 14 of them. Yes.
Jeez, Phil. Right, Lee Griffiths.
Of course, yes. Lee Griffiths is indeed correct.
I'm going to go for one who scored against the Faroe Islands in a 2-2 draw. I'm pretty sure Paul Lambert.
Yeah,
Strange start.
It's a strange start, but it's a good start because you're right. Paul Lambert, a shocker of a game, that one under the bold Bertie.
I think we're 2-0 down, you know.
Cal McGregor.
Alan McGregor, yeah, Euros in 2021 he scored as well, one of his goals.
Yeah.
He did.
What else have we had? Sean Maloney.
Sean Maloney, you would
Think
think
you're right.
is a right answer.
Oh,
Celtic
no.
Park. He scored at
It's
Celtic Park.
It's a wrong answer. He scored his first Scotland goal when he was at Aston Villa, and he had a nice wee flurry
Oh,
under
wow.
Strachan when he'd already left Celtic for the second time. So Sean Maloney, incredibly, is a wrong answer. Oofed.
James
would have-
Forrest.
Forrest, aye. Forrest is very much correct.
Ooh, I think I've got one. Gary Caldwell for against France.
Yeah, Gary Caldwell, yes, indeed. Historic goal, that one. Yep.
Stephen McManus.
Steve McManus, aye.
Oh yeah, Liechtenstein.
Aye.
That game.
Aye. Hey, Jono, you need this one.
Got a few ideas. I'm not sure on this one either. Paul Hartley.
Paul Hartley. It's a wrong answer, Jonathan.
Oh, man.
mate. It's wrong. So that was 4-2 last week, and it's 4-2 again. So Russell wins this round. Oh, mate. Do you want to know the answers?
Embarrassing, by the way.
Do you wish to
Ashamed
know?
of yourself.
Ashamed of yourself. Well, here's the answers that you could have had. Kenny Miller was the right answer.
Oh, yeah,
He's been a
forgot about
consistent
him.
goal
Even
scorer.
playing
He did
for
have a brief
Celtic.
spell with us. Craig Beattie, you would have done well to get him. Scored his first Scotland goal while he was still a Celtic player.
Yeah.
Scott Brown.
Oh, I did think of Scott
I
Brown,
didn't.
but then I couldn't picture a goal for him.
Chris Commons. Charlie Mulgrew. Stuart Armstrong. Ryan Christie, and the most recent one, Anthony Ralston, last year.
Ralston.
Against, I think, who played one Euro Nations League games at Moldova or something they were playing, but yeah, Tony Ralston scored a goal. So, yeah, that was against that one. So, yeah, it's now 12. It's back to a 4-point gap, which has been before. And Jonathan did steadily claw it back. So, he has been in this position, but
Yeah, running out of time now. Running out of time.
You want me to drop points in 4 games between now and the end of the season? Sound familiar?
well, there's a comparison there. Don't be compared to him, though.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's a long road, mate. It's a long road.
It's a long road. We all know it's just been an act. He's not even hungover over there.
Oh, shut up. You can't just tell lies. Do you know what I mean? You can't just come on and tell hundreds of lies. It's a long road. It's a long road for me to my bed, and it's right behind me. Honestly. It's not good.
No.
2 days celebrating a win. Get a grip, man. Honestly. Worth it, though.
Oh, of course.
Right. What a Monday Club on a Tuesday, 58 minutes. Thanks very much for watching. It's been great fun. I'd love to say there'll be a breakfast bar tomorrow, but that absolutely won't be. We will be back, though, with a couple of the sort of different types of shows. Might record a wee bus stop tomorrow night, for example, or do a wee Judgment Day recording, and then we'll have the TNF again Thursday. Thanks to everyone for watching. There was over 180, 190 the whole time tonight, so massive thanks. If you so wish, remember, hit the like button, hit subscribe, slag my hair, all that carry on, right? Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Jonathan, you're better.
It might be game over, eh?
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.